All right, so our next test is called a communications test, and it's going to be communication number 2. Maybe you should put that at the top of your notes. Com2 review. All right, so we're reviewing for the communications test. We're going to be communicating a lot about quadratics. It's a lot about quadratics, which is one of the reasons that I said it's going to be one of the easier tests that you have. That doesn't mean you will get an A unless you know how to do all this stuff, but quadratics, let's just talk for a second. If I have this, and I know this is at 3, 1, I can write the equation for this puppy really easy because I know what its vertex is. Do you remember this? Y equals, and then how would I write this thing once I have the vertex? How do I write the equation? You can see some of you wouldn't get this one right, but maybe if you listen right now, you will. You'd write it like this. X minus 3 plus 1, and it needs a squared. That's called vertex form of the equation. Maybe you should write that down. You say vertex form next to it. And what if they don't want vertex form? What if they want some other form like general form? You just take this and you multiply it out. Do you see how the vertex has the opposite of this number in there? Does that make sense to you because it's on the inside? Things on the inside are always opposite of what you'd expect. Okay, so it uses a minus 3 right there. If it's really a real 3. Okay, and this plus 1, it is a plus 1. That one's the same as what you'd expect, and that makes sense because it's on the outside. We can trust the stuff on the outside. All right, so if I go the other way and say y equals 2, no, the x first. X minus 2 squared plus 7. What's the vertex? 2, 7. All right, once I know the vertex is at 2, 7, then I can kind of make a quick sketch of this over 2 up 7. There's a vertex, and there's no negative in front, so it's a normal parabola going like this. What's that dotted line down the middle called? Axis of symmetry, another topic. You have to know how to do that, and it's not hard. Which part is it, the x or the y? So therefore, the answer is 2, and if you write 2, you will get smacked across the room because it's so close to right, and I hate to mark it wrong, but what would you have to write? X equals 2. You never just write things like, these are 2 of the most common mistakes on the test. Somebody will write the axis of symmetry is 2. You have to say x equals 2. Yes, on all this stuff, like the horizontal asymptotes, the vertical asymptotes, you got to say whether it's x or y. You got to label things. You can't just have a number sitting there. That's a vertex. That's vertex form. And which part within that vertex form do you think kids forget a lot? The squaring it. Very good. That right there. So easy. It looks just exactly the same. So easy to forget the squared because it's a quadratic. All right. And the last really easy thing kids forget is they forget the y equals, and they just write that. Yes, I will have to mark it wrong if you don't have a y equals, because it's not. This is not an equation. When they'll say write an equation for, that's not an equation because it doesn't have an equal sign and something on both sides. You could say f of x or you could say y, either way. But you have to have y equals or f of x equals. Okay, so there's the 3 most common mistakes. Right here, forgetting this. Right here, forgetting to say it squared, or forgetting to say the x equals part. All right, so those are things to keep in mind for tomorrow. All right, or not tomorrow. This isn't tomorrow, it's Friday. All right. But we're starting to review today, and we'll review more tomorrow because I like lots of review. But mentioning that, there is one more new thing to learn, and it has to do with writing a big quadratic equation from a bunch of data. Do you think there'd be a tool that's made of plastic and is sitting on your, probably in your backpack right now, that would help a lot? Yes, grab your graphing calculator, please. You got to know how to do a quadratic regression. Quadratic regression is just like linear regression. You know, we'd go put the data in, type linreg, and then say L1, L2, Y1. Remember that whole process? We'll go through that again right now. But here's some quadratic data. Linear data just goes in a straight line. Quadratic data goes really steep up like this. It might be like a plane taking off and goes up at a super steep rate like this. And they took this data, 1, 1, 2 and 4.1, 3 and 10. Put that in your calculator right now under stat. And then I'll get it in my calculator here and I'll come back. I'll pause for just a minute while I'm doing this. And I'll pause while I'm putting in the calculator. Okay, I've got my data in already. I guess I'll show you that. It's under Edit here. And there's my data, 1, 2, and 3 on the left, and then 1 and 4.1 and 10 on the right. Now I'm going to go to Stat, Calculate, a quad regression. That's number 5. You know your data's quadratic. You can try a quad reg. Then, I think I hit 5 twice there, so I'm going to back up and get rid of that. Now I do second L1, comma, L2, which is about 2, comma, Y1. And I already have it in my y equals screen, so this might not like that. Let me try it though. Vars, y vars, function, y1. Okay. And I hit enter. And yeah, it was okay with that because it already had the equation in the y1, which is right there. So now, I've got my answer, which is this big long equation. What the heck do I do with it? Well, they'll have a question for you like this. Remember how I said this was a jet taking off? Okay. After one, this is probably like 1 millisecond or 2 milliseconds because jets go up really fast. Uh-oh, what's wrong? Why are you all talking? Okay, your equation's different? Oh, okay. So if you have a different version of the operating system, when you do stat, okay, this isn't like a, okay, I guess he's up or something. Yeah, I'll let him go then. All right, under quad reg, right here, you might have a list of things, and that's where you would put, like, your X data comes from L1, your Y data comes from L2. Where do you want to put the equation? On Y1. That's where you'd put it. If there's a list right here, that's what comes up for you as a list. Read me the choices that are on that list. X and Y. Okay, and X comes from L1, Y comes from L2. Frequency, that means what do you want to count by? You can skip that one. Store the regression. Store, and you'd store it where? Y1. And where do you get Y1? That comes from vars. So if your operating system has a list there, that's what you do. I really wish that they only had one operating system, but they have two. Yes. Okay, it automatically goes there because you typed in this L1, comma, L2, comma. This last part's important. The Y1. That's where it's going to put your equation. Is where do you want me to put the equation? I'm telling it Y1. That's under vars, Y vars, function. Oh, I got them somewhere big there. I'm going to quit that. Try again. Vars, Y vars, function. And, okay, I don't even know what to stop it. Great. Okay, I was trying to do it for the third time for somebody and I messed it up. So I'm going to start over again. Stats, calculate the quad reg. And I go second L1, comma, second L2, comma, and then the Y vars, what a var, Y vars, function, Y1, there. Now when I hit enter, it'll automatically put that equation on my Y equals screen. And the good part about that is, if I go there and graph it, everybody please hit graph. Graph. Do you see a parabola there? What if I wanted a, let's see, what if I wanted to say x equals like 3? I can't put that in on the Y equals screen. How can I say x is 3? Because what if they tell me the time, they want time 3? Well, if time 3, I have the answer. It's right there. It's 10. Okay, but what if they tell me the time that is like 5? Okay? And you want to say after 5 milliseconds, how high is the jet? Well, then if I want to put in an x thing, how do I do that? I can't put it in the Y equals screen. Second calculate. Everybody do this, please. Second calculate a what? A value. And that brings up x equals in the bottom corner of your screen. Are you doing this with me? Then I want to check 5. So put in a 5, hit enter, and what do you get? 30.2. Okay? All right, that's how you calculate a value. So that would mean what? That the jet, after 5 milliseconds, was up 30 feet. What if I wanted another one? I'm going to go second, calculate a different value. I'm going to say after 5.5 seconds. Can it do that? Sure it can. It's up 37 feet. Okay. What if they don't give you the X? What if they give you the Y? That's one where you can put it on the Y equals screen. If they give me the Y, I can put it on the Y equals screen. Now, what would Y be in the context of this jet thing? It's not time, it's what? Height. It must be the height of the jet. When will the jet be 100 feet off the ground? Okay, so you type in 100, and I hit enter, and I hit graph, and I don't see any other line. Why? Because it's at 100. Yeah, it's way up there. So I got to change my window so I can see it. And I'm going to make my Y maximum higher than 100 so I can see it. Like maybe make it 120 or something. And then I can graph it again. And now I should be able to see my line for the jet being 100 feet off the ground. And now I want the intersect of the two. This is at negative time, which wouldn't make any sense. So I'm going to want that one. So how do I find the intersect where it's intersecting between two things? I do second, calculate, intersect. Second, calculate, intersect, number 5. And I can always just hit enter and enter for the first two questions. As long as you've only graphed two things, enter is fine. And then I'm going to go to the right. I got to do the guess thing because otherwise it'll give me the other intersection point I don't want. And I hit enter. And it tells me that it is 8.82 on the X, when the Y is 100. So that means after 8.82 milliseconds, my jet was at 100 feet. All right. So moral of the story, what if they tell you an X? Go to second, calculate value. What if they give you a Y? Just type it on the Y equals screen. So where the crux. Okay. Can you do this from the table? Yes. You can go to table, second, table. And I got a whole bunch of numbers there. Mine counts by 0.1s, which is kind of neato. Do you know how to make yours count by 0.1s? It's under table settings. It's right here. See, table settings. So to do that, I'm going to go to window. Nope, that's not it. Second table set. It's above window. And I have mine change table. That's what the little triangle means. Change table by what? And it's counting. I'm having mine count by 0.1s. If you need that decimal option, then you better know how to change your table settings, not by 0.1s. So there's my table again. And what if I needed 100 on my X? Well, there it is. Y would be that. Okay, after 100 milliseconds, it would be at 13,000 feet or whatever. That's a very fast change. So what if I wanted to, I don't like this counting by 0.1s thing. I want to count by ones. Go to table settings. Second, table set, count by ones. My table will count by ones now. What if I want my tables to start at like 10? Well, tell it to start, instead of 97, tell it to start at 10. And I can look at my table. Come on. Catch up. You're so slow. There we go. Now it's starting at 10. 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, you get the idea. How many of you feel comfy with the graph and calculator part of it? The quadratic regression. All right. If you don't, we have a practice problem tonight. You can practice it. I'll give you one more tomorrow that you can practice with. All right. Now, let's get to the meat of what's the main stuff you have to know for this test. It's all about quadratics. So, it's not only about quadratics, but a lot of it is. So if they give you this, I hope you can just give me an answer in like 4 seconds. No, like 4 milliseconds. What's the vertex of that? -5, 5. And what is the axis of symmetry? X equals -5. It's a line that runs right through that. So -5, 5 is right there. This would be a parabola that goes like that. And the line going down here would use the X number of it right there. That's this line right there. Any questions about those? Those are your easy R2 kind of things. All right, you want to know what else is easy, kind of R2 kind of stuff? I would say we've done a lot of these. F of 3 equals 7, and the other point is 2 comma 9. Did you get I just gave you 2 points? Know how to write an equation for it? Do it if you know it. If you don't know it, you better write this down, because you got to know how to. There's a lot of equations for this test too. There's a lot of equations you have to know. So this is more than ever, you're going to need to memorize a bunch of things. So I strongly encourage you to make yourself a list of things you need to know. So if I had y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1, I'm really close to done. Because now I got to do is plug everything in, and it'll be easy. Now some kids think that they have to do the rise over run to get the slope. It does work, rise over run does work, but if you forget that little equation for it, did you know you could just take all these things, these two numbers and these two numbers, and plug them into these spots right here, and you can figure out the slope? It works. Let me show you why. Watch what happens when I divide this equation by x minus x sub 1 on both sides. Slope equals, there's your little formula for slope. See? Y minus y sub 1 over x minus x sub 1. Okay. So my point is just, if you want, you can plug in this into your x and y. So this would be 3 for the x and 7 for the y. And then I can take this point over here and plug it in for my x and my y. My x is 2 and my y is 9. And then I'm going to go 7 minus 9 is equal to m times 3 minus 2. And I know what 7 minus 9 is. That's negative 2. M times 3 minus 2 is 1. So m is equal to negative 2. There we go. Got my slope. Negative 2. Couldn't you have just gone this minus this over that minus that? Yes. It'll give you negative 2. I'm just showing you 2 ways to do it. Okay? Either way you like. Because this minus this, 7 minus, or 9 minus 7 would be 2, over 2 minus 3 would be negative 1. When you divide those two, you get negative 2. And that's the same as what I got. Either way works. Alright, so now, we also can use this formula to get the answer. Once I know the slope is negative 2, I slap it there. I can pick either point I want, that one or that one, and put it in here and here. I'm going to pick the 2 comma 9. So I'm going to pick x is 2 and y is 9. So it's y minus 9 equals negative 2 times x minus 2. And a lot of kids think they have to go farther. You do not. But leave it just like that. AP Calc has a lot of rules on what you can and can't do. In AP Calc, you can simplify this if you want to. But if you make any mistakes, they're then going to mark it wrong. If you leave it this way, this is not just our AP Calc teachers here. This is like nationally. All these people that grade the ACT or the SAT and not SAT, sorry, the AP Calc tests. They have this rule that if you have the right answer and then you try to simplify it and you get it wrong, then they'll mark it wrong. If you'd have left it alone like this, unsimplified, it's right. Okay? So you can leave your answer like this. You don't have to solve it for y. All right. I'm going to give you one, 2 comma 9 and negative 3 comma 7. Figure out for me what was the slope. Of course, you'll need that too. But what's the equation for the slope? Some of you are not writing. I know who you are. Pick up the pen. Pick up the pencil. Keep going. You need help? Raise your hand and ask a clarifying question. All right. All right, here we go. You would say y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. This time I'm going to do my slope the more normal way. I'm going to go that minus that, 7 minus 9, over that minus that, negative 3 minus 2. And then I get negative 2 over negative 5, so that the negatives cancel, it's 2/5. Anybody get the same thing as me for the slope? Good. 2/5 goes there. And then which point do I pick? I'd always pick the one that was both positives because you're less likely to screw up a negative. Now I'm going to pick the x's, just actually x sub 1 is 2, and the y sub 1 is 9. And now I got my y minus 9 equals 3/5, no, 2/5. 2/5 x minus 2. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Awesome. All right, now there's one just like that except for quadratics. That's where you have this and you have 2 points, one of which is the vertex. Let's say the vertex is at 3, 1, and 5, 3 as the other point that's on this thing. Once again, I got 2 points. Can I use the same equation? No, because that's for straight lines. What's the equation for curved lines? I'm going to give it to you right now. You better memorize it if you haven't already. Y equals A times x minus h squared plus k. That's your old vertex form of an equation. Right. It won't memorize itself. You need to know this one. Okay, now I'm going to take my vertex and put it here and here, because that's where the vertex goes. Alright, so the vertex is 3, 1. I'm going to put this in. Why does it have to be minus 3? Because this is always counterintuitive, you know, what opposite of whatever that is. And then 1. There. Is that the equation? No. Because I don't have the a. That's the only thing I need is the a. It's kind of like not knowing the slope. You know, on the other one, you got to figure out the slope separately. You have to figure out the a now. I'm going to use that same way I showed you. I haven't used this point yet, have I? Where could I put the 5 and the 3? For the x and the y. And now I have 3 equals a times 5 minus 3 squared plus 1. And now I can simplify it a little bit. 3 equals a times 5 minus 3 is what? 2. 2 squared is what? 4. Plus 1. And it'd really be tempting right there to go 4 plus 1 and say 5. It'd be wrong. Because this 4 is being multiplied by that a. So I now would subtract 1 from both sides. 2 equals a times 4, or I'm going to say 4a. Divide by 2 on both sides, or 4, sorry. And a equals 1/2. Now this equation that was really close to right before, all I got to do is figure out what a is. I just figured it out. It's 1/2. I'm going to stick it here. And there's my answer. Just like the other problem where you have the 2 dots and you have to draw a straight line through them, this is just a different equation because you have a curved line. Any clarifying questions on this right now? I really like those because it shows you're paying attention. All right, then. Oh, yep. The final answer is this. You put that 1/2 into the other part of the equation where you already have put the vertex. So your answer is an equation. It needs a y equals, and put the 1/2 in. The whole rest of this part is also important. What does Mrs. Richens mention? People always forget the y equals. People often forget the squareds. And I would add that the hardest part is to figure out the 1/2. All right. Let's do one more like that. Here's a parabola. Let's make it even a little more complicated because we'll make it have the parabola go down to the negatives here. And let's say it's at 5, -3. So first of all, don't I need 2 points for this? Yeah. This point right here is at 0. So let's say it's at 3, 0. All right, now you got 2 points. You should be able to. You start with that big formula I showed you. And give me an equation for this parabola. is in case you forgot it. Y equals A, parentheses x minus h squared plus k. Drop in the vertex. Easy enough. 5 and negative 3. Plus a minus 3 doesn't look very good, so I'm just going to say minus 3. And it's really close. I just need to know what little letter. Hey, got to figure out A. How do I get that? Tell me what to do. Okay, plug in 3 comma 0. X is 3, y is 0. So I'll have 0 equals A times 3 minus 5 squared minus 3. And I just have to get that A alone. So I'm going to go 0 equals A times 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus 3. And it'd be tempting to subtract the 4 and the 3, but you can't. Add 3 to both sides. 0 plus 3 is 3. And then divide by 4. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. A equals 3/4. Is that the final answer? No, but I know a lot of kids are going to leave it that way. It's not the answer. It's just the stretch factor. So I'm going to take that 3/4, put it back into this equation right here, and get rid of these guys. That's my answer. It's got a y equals. It's got a squared. I figured out the hardest part, which is this 3/4 right here. It got really messy now. I'm going to try that again. 3/4. Okay. Raise your hand if you think you get that kind. Okay, good. And there's only one other thing we got to talk about. And you got to be decent at completing the square. You're going to have to know it. Okay? I'm going to start with an easy one. And I'll do it myself just to remind you so you can see one. It's a lot easier to do it when you see one done. Complete the square means that this part right here should be able to factor to 2 things that are perfect, and it won't the way it is. So what we do to complete the square is we move that plus 1 over to the end, and we put in a plus a line and a minus a line, which will cancel each other out. And then we make this thing right here be a perfect number to match up with that 8. How do you decide what to use? The little German boy tells you. Half and square. So, half and square, come get your pudding. Oh, so 4 squared is 16. That's 16. And there you go. And now I'm almost done. This part's perfect. And that's negative 15. And this is x plus and x plus. And since it's perfect, they got to be the same. And what do I put? 16? Common mistake. No, what do I put? 4 and 4. That makes it 16. And then my final answer is x plus 4. They combine together to be squared minus 15. And haven't I just found the vertex too? And the vertex would be negative 4 comma negative 15. And haven't I just then figured out what the x thing is that tells me the, what's that called again? Axis of symmetry. That's at x equals negative 4. So there's the vertex. There's vertex form. And there is the axis of symmetry. You see why it's really handy to know how to complete the square? Because then it gives you this, which then tells you the vertex, which then tells you the axis of symmetry. Okay, so completing the square is huge. It's not just huge, it's humongous. Try this. You might notice this little problem. What's the problem? 5. Well, all you got to do is factor it out. 5 comes out front. And then put the plus 1 at the very end. Remember, you leave it way over there. Give yourself room to work. And then this 5 comes out. And what do I have left once the 5 comes out? X squared and then what? Plus 2x. And then the special sauce, plus a line, minus a line. And do the half and square thing. Okay, so it's exactly the same as the other kind. It's just you got to factor a 5 out first. All right, so now half and square, German boy. 1 squared is 1 and 1. And then here's a really important part. Who remembers this from yesterday? You remember this? That 5. What about the 5? You have to times it over there on the right side. Why? Because this 5 is going to multiply this by 1. And that line there, it's supposed to cancel out this other line, has to also get multiplied by 5. This one has to get times by 5 because this one is going to get times by 5. Alright, so now, here's my perfect part. X plus 1, x plus 1. Then over here, it's a little complicated. 5 times the negative 1, then add 1. And that makes negative 5 plus 1, negative 4. And then I just put these two guys together since they're exactly the same. And I have y equals 5, parentheses x plus 1 squared minus 4. I have completed the square with factoring. Is that like an R3 level? That's actually not that hard. The only thing that would make it an R3 level is if we throw in a fraction. Yay. All right, see if you can handle it. We can handle fractions. Why is there going to be a fraction? Because when you do half and square on the 5, it's not going to go so nice. I don't recommend you use decimals. Go ahead if you want to, but you won't have a calculator for this part of the test. So it's not going to be super easy to use decimals. Try multiplying like 2.25 times 2.25 without a calculator. Alright, so how do you do it then? X squared plus 5x plus a line minus a line plus 2. Move plus 2 all the way over. Half and square tells me to take half of 5, which is 2.5, and then square it. That's kind of a pain. So I recommend, what's half of 5? 5 over 2. Half n squared? 5 over 2 squared. Why is that any better? Well, because now I can just square those. What's 5 squared and 2 squared? 25 over 4. Then, my perfect part, x plus, and then, what do I put here? 5 over 2. See, that's another reason this is kind of cool. I don't have to, like, calculate it out. If you had taken 5 over 2, which is 2.5, and you'd squared it, you get, like, 5.673. You wouldn't know what to put here. I do, because I use fractions. Cool. All right, over here, this 4, this 2, I'm going to multiply by 4 over 4. Why did I just do that? Because I want to get a common denominator. Now I have negative 25 fourths plus 8 fourths. And even a child of age 9 could answer that. If they had fractions. So it's going to be negative 17 fourths. Very good. These two go together since they're identical. X plus 5 halves squared. Don't forget your y equals. Don't forget your squared. And there's my answer. And that is serious math. The vast majority of people on the street could never do that. We just found the vertex of a tough equation. Okay. And what if they wanted the axial symmetry? It's really easy. X equals negative 5. Okay. So, here is the piece de resistance. Can you handle this? It has both factoring and a fraction. If you can handle this one, most of the problems in the test are going to seem like easy spice, not scary spice. Yes? Is there a question? I can answer a question. Factor out the 10 so that I can have this x squared all alone. Then what am I going to be left with on that 30 thing? I need a plus line and a minus line. Half and square. Fraction even. How harsh. Squared. I'll actually do that out here. 3 over 2 squared would be 9 over 4. So easy to forget that, but at least one of my students remembered. Times 10 here means times 10 has to go there. I bet a lot of you forgot that. Next step, I'm going to put these guys together because they're identical. Y equals 10, x plus 3/2 squared. And then I just got to put these together. Wouldn't it be handy if I made that 1 into 4/4? In other words, times the top and bottom by 4. And now it's negative 94/4. There it is. Beautiful, isn't it? That's our 3 level. Almost our 4, actually. Okay. So, there's a lot of stuff you have to know by tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Next day. Tomorrow's a review day. That quadratic regression is the only really new thing I just taught you. Everything else was supposed to be learned yesterday. I know I wasn't here, so it might have been harder for you. But all right, so for today, I don't have time to grade anything because if you look at the time, we have not too much left. Your only homework is this, and then old homework can be graded tomorrow. Be prepared. What I often do is take the assignment you should have had done for today, since you have had extra time on it. Maybe I'll grade that one tomorrow. We have a lot of missing homework. Put it this way. I haven't put in homework in a while, so we need to put in some. I just don't have time to do it today. But I'll probably be grading some tomorrow. There you go. On this, I'd like you to just do the odds because it's the only review sheet we have for the test. And if you do it all tonight, you'll have nothing left for tomorrow. So do the odds, and then also do the last problem, which is the regression problem. So I got to make sure you are okay at that. I skipped over a worksheet on a whole bunch of regression problems because I think they're on the easier side. And I'd rather have you practice the whole thing because the regressions, you're probably going to get those right anyway. Okay, so there's one regression on this. The last one. Do the odds plus the last problem.